Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin has been exploding to the upside after the breakout from this bullish pattern, while Ethereum is getting very close to a potential breakout of its own, while Solana is still repeating history, which I'll talk about later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just giving you a quick update here on the daily Bitcoin chart, and right now this bearish divergence is potentially about to be invalidated because at least as of right now, the price of Bitcoin is potentially creating a new higher high, but at least for now, this is not yet confirmed in the daily candle closes. But obviously, as of right now, there's just a matter of hours until we see this daily candle close confirm, and of course, if this daily candle closes above these previous daily candle closes, confirming a new higher high in the candle closes, then of course, that would invalidate this previous bearish divergence. But of course, we could potentially form a new bearish divergence even in that scenario, because at least for now, the RSI on the daily time frame is still sitting in lower highs. But in that scenario, if we confirm this higher high in place in the price in the daily candle closes, we would also have to reconfirm this new potential bearish divergence. So basically, if we see this higher high confirm, then we have no bearish divergence active on the chart, and instead we would have a potential one forming, but not yet confirmed. But either way, like I said a few weeks ago now here on the channel, this bearish divergence on the daily time frame that has played out over the last few weeks resulted in a lot of choppy sideways price action, which is one of the most likely outcomes from a bearish divergence. We usually end up seeing either choppy sideways price action or potentially a bit of a short-term pullback as the most common outcomes from a bearish divergence. But as I've also said almost every day over the last few weeks, I would not be expecting a massive bearish trend reversal or a massive crash in the price of Bitcoin simply based on this bearish divergence alone, especially due to the fact that the DXY or US dollar index has been trending to the downside. And so once again, at least while this DXY is still trending to the downside, obviously I'm still very much bullish on the price of Bitcoin in terms of the trend here on the daily time frame. But obviously during a bullish trend, we can see some short-term pullbacks here and there and some sideways consolidations like what we've seen over the last few weeks. And right now the DXY is bouncing just in the short term, but at the moment this is not enough to confirm a bullish trend reversal in the DXY, which basically means at least as of right now, we're technically still forming lower highs and lower lows in the DXY, still within a bearish trend. And so like I've been saying this entire time, I'm still bullish on the trend in the price of Bitcoin here on the daily time frame. And speaking of being bullish on the price of Bitcoin, I just recorded an entire podcast over on the Mr. M podcast talking about the coming Bitcoin bull run, also talking about other cryptocurrencies, some cryptos that I personally hold, other assets like fiat currency and the Bitcoin ETFs and how that all ties together. So definitely watch that podcast if you have the time for it. It's only 40 minutes and it's jam-packed full of information. So I'll make sure to leave a link to this podcast in the description down below and in the pinned comment. In fact, it'll be the first link down below this video. Definitely check that one out and show some love over on his channel. But anyway, getting back into the Bitcoin chart, looking at the 12-hour Bitcoin chart, and once again, we've seen another perfect bounce from this ascending line of support, which was previous resistance. And this ascending line of support was sitting at around 41.8k approximately, which is pretty much exactly where we saw a bounce here in the price of Bitcoin. And right now, this line of support is sitting at around 42.3k. And so once again, as I've said over the last few days, even before we actually bounced from this line of support, of course, I mentioned that is the level where we should be taking at least some profits from a short position. If we're shorting the price of Bitcoin from this short-term bearish move, we need to consider that we have some strong support around this level where the price could very much bounce at. And so once again, due to that reason, I did take a lot of profits off the table from my short position. I closed a lot of that short position. And as I mentioned in my last video, I did move my stop loss up towards my break-even price, which basically means even though this was a fake out to the downside, it was not really a successful break to the downside, and we obviously did not hit the price target. This was still a profitable trade because once again, I took some profits around this line right here, which I shared here on the channel. And due to the fact that the stop loss for this trade was at around the break-even price at the entry price, of course, we took no further losses, which basically means we took some profits and no losses, which was obviously a profitable trade. But obviously right now with the break back above this line right here and also above this horizontal line right here, obviously that break to the downside and that bearish price target for this break to the downside is clearly invalidated right now. And as I also shared in my last video, of course, we had this short-term bullish pattern forming, which was a falling wedge pattern. And the point of the breakout was sitting at around 43,000, which I mentioned in my last video. That is the point where we flip much more bullish again. Because obviously, just in the short term here on the 4-hour chart over the last 1 to 2 weeks or so, we have seen a slight short-term cool-off, a little bit of bearish price action just in the short term. And so essentially, I was riding these moves to the downside with a small short position on the price of Bitcoin. But once again, as I said in my last video, video, all better off for bearish price action once we break out above 43k. That is the level where we flip much more bullish again, and that's pretty much exactly what we saw. Obviously, before breaking above 43k, we were still seeing relatively neutral price action, nothing too crazy, but the moment we broke out above 43k, we saw explosive bullish price action, which is what I was talking about in my last video. And obviously right now, the price has already hit the technical price target for this falling wedge pattern, because the technical price target is simply looking at the top of the wedge, which is sitting at around 44.2k approximately. Otherwise, we can measure the price targets this way, and that would place a secondary price target at approximately 45.1k, which obviously as of right now, the price of Bitcoin has already hit. And so obviously congrats if you took this trade right here. If you opened a long position anywhere near the breakout above this line of resistance, obviously you've done very well as of right now. And on top of this bullish falling wedge pattern breakout, of course, we did have a short-term bullish divergence here on the 4-hour chart, which did help the price recover here in the short term. But at least as of right now, on the 4-hour chart, the RSI is currently overbought for the first time since all the way back around here. And obviously back then, that was near some sort of local top in the price. Obviously not the top. Obviously, we can go higher later on, like what we've just seen. But basically, I would not be surprised if we do end up seeing at least some sort of sideways consolidation, kind of like what we saw back here, at least sometime soon here in the short term, considering we just saw a pretty explosive move to the upside. And as for short-term resistance, we are finding a bit of short-term resistance at around 46k approximately, but if we break out above 46k, we have a Fibonacci level on the weekly chart still sitting at around 48k. And so once again, if we confirm a breakout above 46k first, then next I'll be looking closer towards 48k as the next price targets for Bitcoin. And as for short-term support, in case we end up seeing a bit of a pullback or retracement, I would expect support around this price range right here, which was previous resistance and should be acting as new support, which is sitting in between around 44.3k going up towards around 44.7k. Once again, that area acting as support. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin and crypto funding rates, right now, a lot of these funding rates are still very much above their neutral rate, which their neutral rate is normally around 0.01%. And so once again, this means there's still a massive premium if you want to long any of these crypto assets with these high funding rates. There's a huge premium to hold those long positions, because basically, usually depending on the exchange, but usually every 8 hours, you're paying these high funding rates to the short positions if you're holding a long position. And so obviously right now, with the price going to the upside, the long positions are clearly making a lot of money while the price is bullish. But if the price simply consolidates sideways, then the long positions begin losing money due to the funding rates, while the short positions are actually making money even if we see sideways price action. And so obviously that was also another reason as to why I was shorting the price of Bitcoin back in this range back here. But once again, I said all bets are off for that bearish price action once we break 43k. So at least in the short term, we are actually looking more bullish than bearish due to this breakout. But obviously it is worth paying attention to these funding rates, just to be aware that the long positions right now are paying very high fees to long the price of Bitcoin and other crypto assets. But anyway, getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this is on the daily ETH to US dollar chart. And right now the price of ETH is also potentially about to invalidate this previous bearish divergence, but could also potentially form a new bearish divergence, like what I said earlier in the video for Bitcoin on the daily time frame. But once again, as I've been saying over and over again recently on the channel, a bearish divergence does not necessarily mean we're going to see a bearish trend reversal, so it does not mean we're about to see a massive crash. In fact, the most likely outcomes from a bearish divergence, the most common outcomes that we usually see, are either choppy sideways price action or potentially a short-term pullback before potentially continuing the bullish trend later on. And so once again, as I've been saying this entire time, I'm still very much bullish in terms of the trend here on the daily time frame, because obviously we're still forming higher lows and higher highs and remaining above this important area of support, which is sitting in between around 2.1k going up towards around 2150. And so right now the trend is still obviously bullish, but of course if we see this new bearish divergence potentially confirm, once again that could just mean we have a bit of a short-term slowdown or a pause from the bullish trend before potentially continuing the bullish trend later on. And if we're taking a look at the 8-hour ETH to US dollar chart, right now the price of ETH is getting very close to confirming a breakout above this horizontal line of resistance, which is sitting just underneath 2.4k, more specifically around 2390. But at least as of right now, we have not yet confirmed the breakout, because we have not yet seen 8-hour candle closes confirm above 2390. But potentially very soon, we could end up seeing some candle closes confirm above 2390 here on the 8-hour chart or larger timeframes. And so in that case, that would set up a bullish price target for this ascending triangle pattern, and that bullish price target would be sitting at approximately 2.6k, more specifically around 2650. And so from the point of the breakout, which is very close to the current price as of recording this video, to that price target, that's roughly around an 11% move to the upside here in the price of ETH. And so that's potentially the next trade that we could take, a possible long position here. But remember, right now we're lacking confirmation. So personally, I'm not in a long position because we have not yet confirmed the breakout. And once again, just remember that if we see a sideways consolidation in the short term, the long positions will be losing money if we see sideways price action due to those very high funding rates. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, we need to see a bullish price action for the longs to actually make money. Whereas if we see just sideways price action, the shorts can still make money in sideways price action. And so once again, I'd like to see some more confirmation of this breakout to actually confirm and be more confident that we're going to see some more bullish price action, which at least as of right now has not yet confirmed. But if you want to take trades just like this, whether we're looking bullish or bearish, you can use longs or shorts. And personally, I take these trades over on Bybit, so I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And in fact, if you use that link down below this video to make a Bybit account, you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And so I will also make sure to leave a link to Bitflex in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link and deposit $100 worth of crypto and make one trade over on Bitflex, you can get 10 USDT completely for free as an extra bonus. And so if you're trading crypto anyway, or if you're preparing to take the next trade, you might as well check out those links down below this video to set up ready to go on an exchange using those links if you want to get those extra bonuses. But anyway, taking a look at the shorter term right now on the 4-hour time frame, the price of ETH is running into a bit of short-term resistance, which is this price range sitting in between around 2380 going up towards around 2410 approximately. And so once again, in order to become more confident that we're really breaking out above this area of resistance, obviously we need to see a breakout above around 2410, ideally above this previous high, which by the way, this previous high is sitting at around 2440. And now if we were to see a rejection from this resistance, then in that case, I would be paying attention to this area right here acting as support, sitting in between around 2310, going up towards around 2330. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana against the US dollar here on the 3-day time frame, right now the price of Solana looks ready to retest this level of resistance again, which starts at around $120. And that level of resistance at around $120 is based on this Fibonacci level of resistance, and we also have more resistance at around $140, creating this $20 price range in between 120 to 140, once again acting as resistance. But just in the shorter term here on the 4-hour time frame, once again, as I've talked about over the last few days, the price of Solana is repeating history alongside the RSI. Because not only did we see another bearish divergence play out exactly as expected, like what we saw back here at a point of resistance at a Fibonacci level, like what we saw at that golden pocket, but on top of that, we also saw the RSI bounce from this area of support right here once again just a couple of days ago here. And so like I said, when that was happening a few days ago here on the channel, of course, I talked about this potentially repeating history, meaning we could be at some sort of local low in the price of Solana, about to see a short-term bullish relief. Because if you're simply looking at the last few times where the RSI ran into this area of support, obviously that happened right around a local low just before a bounce back to the upside here in the price of Solana. And so in the immediate short term, we're currently looking slightly more bullish than bearish, but ultimately at the moment, we're kind of range bound here in the price of Solana, because even though we're seeing a short-term bullish relief, remember, we still have this major resistance starting at around $120 still above. And so what is a likely scenario is we could see a slight bullish relief like what we've also seen over the last 1 to 2 days. We could potentially see this continue, but remember that major resistance starting at around $120 could mean we could see a short-term rejection from around that area. And that's basically what we also saw back here. We saw a few rejections around that golden pocket area of resistance here. And so ultimately in the short term, that meant the price of Solana was range bound in the short term, which once again, right now the price is potentially range bound. But once we finally see a confirmed break either below support or above resistance, so below support at around $90 in the price or below this area of support here in the RSI, obviously in that case, that would mean the price is flipping more bearish and we could see a slightly larger retracement in the short term. But until then, we're looking relatively neutral, and obviously the bullish scenario would start occurring when we actually break out above around $120 or ideally above $140, because obviously in that scenario we're breaking out above significant resistance and we could just continue running further to the upsides. And so ultimately on the larger timeframes, obviously we're still within the bullish trend, but in the short term we're somewhat range bound in between that major resistance and also seeing a slight bullish relief heading up towards that major resistance. But believe it or not, you can make a lot of profits very easily from crypto if the price is chopping around sideways just like this. And if you want to know how to do that, then check out the video in the bottom left of your screen right now, because that video right there shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action, and the video in the top left shows you how you can profit if the price is bullish or bearish using longs or shorts. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.